Today that they are Christian ethics, and then today our subject is government in the first part, and the second part of today's class will touch several subjects of your topics, your research topics, some of you. And even if I touch that, and if you have any question about your subject, then please, you can bring the issues and ask the questions or comments that we can deal with in the class as much as we can. So the first part again, I will deal with that the government, Christian government, what the biblical the foundation of the civil government. Yeah. So again, if any questions, please raise your hand. Why did God establish civil government? Yeah. What should the government do? Is it ever right to disobey the government or to try to change the government? And what is the right relationship between church and the state? Yeah. Does the Bible support monarchies or does it favor some sort of democracy? Yeah. But well, we can argue that the Bible teaches the theocracy, and theocracy is what's the difference between monarchy and then democracy? So we'll see something. Yeah. Government should punish evil and encourage the good things. Yeah, in the Old Testament does that. In Genesis chapter 9, verses 5 through 6, the first indication of God's establishment of a civil government in human society happened when Noah and his family came out of the ark after flood. At this point, God said that he would require payment for the crime of murder, and that he would require this penalty to be carried out by other human beings. Yeah. So this is the first concept of the government, and for your lifeblood, I will require a reckoning. From every beast, I will require it, and from man, from his fellow man, I will require a reckoning for the life of man. Yeah, whoever shed the blood of the man, by man shall be blood be shed. For God made man in his own image. So this gives this support a capital punishment. But here God indicated that the crime of murder would be repaid by the forfeiture of the criminal's own life. By man shall his blood be shed. Is that always okay? And then can we apply that? So that's why some people say that this is a theocracy. Can we apply to our daily lives or in the civil court? Yeah. This command that God gave to Noah is significant for our purposes in the 21st century because it was given long before the establishment of the people of Israel as descendants of Abraham. So such a rule is very old. Yeah. The anarchy is a highly destructive evil. Another section of the Old Testament reinforces this need for government to restrain evil, for it shows that when there is no government or a government is so weak that it cannot enforce its laws, there are terribly destructive results. The stories in Judges, well, not just the chapter 17 through 21, but from the very beginning, it's messed up, right? After Joshua died. Yeah, it's Judges said that after it just started after Joshua died, after leader died, after monarchy finished, and there is anarchy. The Judges is anarchy. And especially the Judges 17 through 21 dealt with that the priest This is not the lay leaders, but a priest when they commit sin. All nations become horrible. They commit horrible crimes. Yeah. These tragic narratives in Judges show in gruesome detail why civil government is so badly needed among simple human beings. Where there is no ruler, simple people make up their own uh, morality and soon begin to do terrible things to one another. If there is no governmental authority to stop evil people, evil simply increases. So anyway, I tried too much good or evil dichotomized, but well, maybe this is a good comparison why the government needed. But in Samuel's time, when the Samuel is the last judges, by the way, and then he become like a Moses figure, and there's a monarchy, king look like, and then he tried to oppose that they have a kingship, real monarchy, but yeah, uh, he was still struggling, and he won, but they chose already the king. So Saul was a king, and then they experienced bad also, and then David was a little better, and these kind of things. But anyway, um, government number C, government should enforce justice and then defend the weak. Another way to describe punishing evil and rewarding good is to speak of enforcing justice, where justice means ruling according to the just standards of God's law. If a king enforces justice, he brings punishment against those who have done wrong and protects and reward those who have done right. Yeah. In this way, justice means that the people receive what they deserve. Yeah. Praise the Lord. So if any have question, please let me know. Yeah. This the yeah. So you can if they read it, you understand. So I'll cover a little quick today because we have to cover a lot. The government should execute swift punishment as a deterrent to crime. And a passage in Ecclesiastes reinforces the importance of civil punishment in restraining evil, because the sentence against an evil deed is not executed speedily. The heart of the children of the man is fully set to do evil. Yes. How about in New Testament? In Romans chapter 13, verse 1 through 7, the New Testament supplements and reinforces what we find in the Old Testament about the responsibility of the civil authority to punish evil. Yeah, let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authorities resists what God has appointed, and those who resist will incur judgment. So if you see this Paul's the epistles, he supported government and then also the leadership of a king, and he didn't say details about the king's leadership. When the king lead a bad way or weak way, should we should we follow him or turn over the government against the government? Do we have a right to against the government? But according to this Romans, that's we don't have a right to look like. Yeah. So let's see also another one. God has appointed authorities who have governmental power. This idea is supported by Jesus' statement to Pilate. you would have no authority over me at all unless it had been given you from above. So the point that Pilate, whether he is doing evil way or good way, Jesus didn't matter. What he meant is, yes, your authority also, you think that you own your authority, but actually it's given from God. So it's a similar that what Paul said, the God give authority to the governors, so you must obey the governmental law. Yeah. Governmental officials serve God. Paul says that the ruler is God's servant for your good, and that he is servant of God. He also says the authorities are ministers of God. Yeah. This means that we should think of government officers as serving God when they punish evil and promote what is good, whether or not they realize it. Yeah. So this is a strong passage in support of the idea that we should view civil government as a gift from God, something that brings us great benefits. Although individual people and individual governments can do evil, the institution of civil government in itself is something very good, a benefit that flows us to us from God's infinite wisdom and love. Yeah. So that this they are supporting the government. But let's see what the First Peter chapter 2, verse 13 through 14. Peter expressed a similar view of the role of the government in his first epistle. Be subject for the Lord's sake to every human institution, whether it be to the emperor as a supreme, or to governors as sent by him to punish those who do evil and to praise those who do good. Yeah. Peter, like Paul, begins with a command for his leaders to be subject to the human institutions such as the emperor or governance. Yeah. What about turning the other cheek? Some Christians today object to the idea that government should actually punish wrongdoers. They said government should instead try to correct causes that lead people to commit crimes, blame the society much more than the people who do the wrong. Yeah. Such people who object to punishing wrongdoers often appeal to Jesus' words in Matthew chapter 5, verse 39. Yeah. But I say to you, do not resist the one who is evil. But if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. Yeah. Um, this is right, but can we really, is that really practical? Can we do that now? Some people say that, well, that's a symbolical word that, well, just humiliation or something. It's something tried to nice, to interpret nicely, but also how about the real, the literal, the interpretation? It's literally somebody slapped you, literally somebody give you hardship and punish you so badly. How about can you do that? Let him do everything? Yeah. So it's not easy to practice. It depends on the situation. Yeah. Does this teaching prohibit even government from executing punishment on wrongdoers? Or if the government harm the people, should the people give up all their right for the governor, for the king? Yeah. Um, this is another issue. So if you have any question, please, there is such again, the Christian ethics, there is all, some as absolute, but when we practice and then when we apply that our daily lives, there are some exceptions and rules and gray areas. That's why in that case, there is no such the answer. We could have more than one answers. Okay, David Camara, you have questions? Yeah. Or comment?
A question, a comment.
Okay.
Going a little to Romans 8,
Mm-hmm.
find that it says that the leader is God's servant to do you good.
Mm.
What if that leader is not doing any good to people? Because we have seen some countries that have actually what you can call savage leaders.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
They are always killing people. We had the regime of Idi Amin Dada here in this country. It was like in Uganda, it was like a savage almost.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
if one thing I know, or what we believe, that God ordains civil governments, but He doesn't
Mm.
ordain their evil. So what
Mm.
if they have to be such evil to people? Should the
Mm.
Christians keep quiet and keep on praying and blood is shed even when they can do something? As you know, it's
Mm.
really disturbing. What is your take on that, Professor?
Yeah, that's a good question. And we're going to talk about later, little later, that do you have right to, how about the coup d'etat? Can we justify that biblically? You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah.
If the king do something wrong, can we get rid of the king? And how about the David situation? Did David have a coup d'etat or wait? You know what I'm talking about? So it's somehow it's not easy to say yes we can do, yes or no.
Yeah.
It's
It's really
harder that
hard.
when we practice that. Yeah. Mm. Okay, we'll get there later. Yeah. There would be the civil government even in a sinless world. Is government required only because there is evil in the world? What is the purpose of the exist of a government? It's just simply that remove the evil. Then if there is no evil, then no government need. I don't think so. Still, we need it, right? Even if there were no evil in the world, there would still be some need for government. Yeah, its role would include doing things that promote the common good of society, such as uh, the building and the regulation of roads, the establishment of standard ways, and many things that. Yeah, even if there is no evil, it's impossible, but still need a government. So government role is not just get rid of the weak the things, evil things, but also good for the people who take care of take care of the good people too. Yeah. What about the detailed Old Testament laws for the government of Israel? If it is true that governments are responsible before God to punish evil and encourage good, then should we not look to the extensive laws that God gave to the nation of Israel in Old Testament to find out in more detail how governments are or what to function? God's end time judgment breaking into current history. A proper interpretation of Israel's law requires an understanding of some unusual examples of God's judgment suddenly breaking into human history. Yeah. But surely we cannot apply directly like a Jewish law, and especially that revenge. So in the Jewish law support revenge. Yeah. But in the Jesus surely no revenge. Yeah. Turn the other cheek. Let him slap you again. Like that. Um, so in the Bible, does it conflict each other? Well, it look like conflict, but uh, the that's what the Jesus said. I fulfilled the law because the interpretation of the law was not perfect, was not fully interpreted, it's actually wrongly executed. Yeah. Mm. Extensive application of the death penalty. A proper interpretation of the Old Testament laws also requires understanding of another unique aspect of those laws, namely the imposition of a death penalty, not only for murder, but also promoting a false religion for rebellious against the family authorities and for sexual sin. Yeah. So, well, the Jewish law is very strict. Um, if anybody kills the other person, then must be executed. And then also, if anybody against the parents, then also stoned to death. Yeah. And kill all the shamanists and fortune tellers. Yeah. And can we do that now? That's another question. Yeah. So that's surely that's bounded by the culture. Yeah. The ongoing value of these laws. If these distinctions are kept in mind, the laws that God gave to Israel can still provide useful information for understanding the purpose of government and the nature of good and the bad government. Yeah. So those who are going to do that, the capital punishment, you might get some idea. What can we do in Bible? The Old Testament look like support the capital punishment, and how about the Jesus? And then also more theological questions. Do we have any right to destroy God's creature? Yeah, this is main thing. If God created human, and if anybody destroy the human beings, then that person must be punished. But can we punish, or life is life, and eyes is eyes, and years? Is that is that right? Can we do that? Yeah. Government should serve the people and seek the good of the people and the nation. If the civil government is to be good, God's servant for your good, then government exists for the good of the people, not for the good for the king, the emperor, or the president. Yeah. So the government could serve instead of a people, but serve the king. That's the important, and then also that makes the king dictator. Yeah. Here I am testify against me before the Lord and before His anointed, whose ox have I taken, or whose donkey have I taken, or whom have I defrauded? That's what Samuel said, I'm not commit any kind of sin. So I'm fully fine, qualified to be a king. Yeah, I think that if we have our leaders, governors, or president, if they have this kind of the personality, and then also their behavior, I think that this kind of leader will be really, really appreciated and respected. Yeah. Mm. However, that Samuel warned the people that the king would abuse his power and to and take from the people for the benefit of himself and his family. Yeah, sure enough. Nowadays, even the president they do. Yeah, sure enough. What God just like warned that. Think about in America. President got the bribe, and I don't know whether this is true or not, but now he got accusation like that. The president and his son has a bribe, and I hope that the Ugandan president is better than that. But yeah, so that the Bible, I mean, already Samuel warned that king will use a government to support him instead of support and serve the people. Citizens should be subject to the government and obey its law, except in certain circumstances. The general obligation to be subject to the civil government because God has established the government. But let's see. Uh, the Peter and then Paul supported that, but while it is right to disobey civil government, God does not hold people responsible to obey the civil government when obedience would mean directly disobeying a command of God Himself. Its principle is indicated by the number of passages in the narrative sections of the Bible. Yeah. And how about this in the family, like that? When for the child, when the children's point of view, if daddy do something wrong, and their children have a right to disobey him. Yeah, this is same thing. So do we have a right to against higher authority? So this is argument that yes, if the command is wrong, we have a right to object for that, but not always, right? And the problem is, how do we know the command from higher authority is bad or not? How about the John Calvin's point of view? But in that obedience, which we have shown to be due to the authority of rulers, we are always to make this exception, that such obedience is never to lead us away from obedience to him, to whose will the desires of all kings ought to be subject. And how absurd would it be that in satisfying man, you should incur the displeasure of him for whose sake you obey men themselves. The Lord therefore is the King of kings. Yeah. Is it right? Is it ever right to attempt to overthrow the obtained freedom from the existing government? If the dictator they give harder time the people, do the people right to revolt and turn over the government? Do we have a right for that? Yeah. Sometimes people raise the question of whether it was right for the early American colonies to declare the independence from the Great Britain. Well, or how about when the dictators, make people suffer a lot, and do we have a right? Like even Korea, back in like 40 years ago, when the dictator killed so many people, we don't know how many people he killed, but he used a secret police, and then many people got disappeared. And then finally, we have coup d'etat. Yeah. So is this right or not? But like back in like 6 years ago, when the woman president messed up and people have anti-government demonstration, more than 1 million people come to the street several nights, and then finally she was judged, and then she was in prison. So we have national election, right? That, and then we choose another president. Is this right or wrong? So that's I don't want to say that which is right, which is wrong, but in Korea we do have that experience. Um, so I still there is some argument in biblically whether it is right or no. We should wait until God punish the man or woman. Yeah. Other Lutheran Reformed thinkers made similar statements. The right to rebel against tyrants is also found in the words of Roman Catholic philosopher Thomas Aquinas and many other Christian writers. Yeah. So some people said, yes, if the tyrant, the dictator, they make people suffer, oppress his own people, yes, the people have a right to turn over or against the dictator. But some argue that no, still we must wait. So Apostle Paul also is kind of case by case. In general, he said that we don't have any rights. So because God created, and then God created institution also. So you must wait until God do something. And some argues that, well, that their crime is so high, we must stop right away. That's why they have a coup d'etat on over the government. But history shows that once they got power, then they will be also, and they became same thing like the previous. Yeah. So anyway, this if you like to share your position, go ahead. Otherwise, I go on. Yeah. Um, Government should safeguard human right. Okay, Moses, you have a comment or questions?
Yeah, I have a comment maybe.
Mm.
Um, Now, if you are the presidents of a states
Mm-hmm.
or you are the kings of a particular territory,
Mm-hmm.
and for example, as I mean, our president, former president Idi Amin,
Mm.
many Ugandans keep referring him as one of the worst dictators
Mm-hmm.
that the country has ever experienced.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, they were organizing to come, they were organizing a rebel groups, they were organizing a civil war against your government.
Mm-hmm.
And you are here seated knowing in the neighboring country, Tanzania,
Mm-hmm.
there are rebel groups preparing to come and attack you.
Mm.
In such a scenarios,
Mm.
do they expect this man to sit and watch and
Mm.
not unpicked those suspect to be the collaborators and the people who are part of the rebel group who want to overthrow the government? So in other words, I'm trying to say, if you are the president, there are certain killings or there are certain acts that can be justified, because sometimes out of fear, sometimes the fact because you have intelligence feeding you with the information, and you know they're planning to come and take over from you, maybe by war, definitely you will have to act and do something. So I think that if you are in the states or you are in the government, because the government is small, but the state is big. So if you are in government and there's some rebel or there's some revolts or something, you can suppress it. Because as I said, I can talk more of Africa or Uganda in particular because I don't know other countries. Now, when Milton Obote, our first president, was in Kololo, and some of you know the story, was shot from the mouth by an unknown person. In such a scenario, what do? And you're the head of a state, you are shot, you are tempted, assassinated. Definitely you will kill. So sometimes killing need to be understood whether is the government is bad or not, unless if they're killing without any evidence of something wrong. But if there's a evidence, I think to bring the society and the country to order, you need to kill some people.
Yeah. How do you think about it? This is this complicated also in the Bible, that God care about individual or group of the people, which is a group of the people first or individual first. Of course, God cares everybody individually, but what is the priority? Mainly, the ruler's point of view, for the government, we must, yeah, for the government leaders' point of view, that for the government, for the sake of the people, the individual, the right must be limited or something like that. Yeah. But the problem is that it could be abused. What is the limit for that? Like some countries, like in Korea, we do have experience that when we do have a dictator in 1960s, he got a power by the coup d'etat, and he oppressed a lot of the individual, the persons, the freedom. So we don't have any much freedom. But because he did monopoly did that, and then at the time country was so poor, so the economically is grow fast. But it cost hard. This, a lot of people's the freedom was limited. And then also those who tried to practice their freedom were executed brutally. Is that okay biblically, or still is argument? Some people say yes, because he did that, our economies grow like this way. But some say no, human life is more important than money, the economy. Maybe you can grow slowly but more peacefully. And so there are some arguments. Yeah, that's good point.
Professor,
Okay.
a question is, what make a person or a head of a state a dictator? What are the determinants that this person is a dictator?
Well, what I see as a dictator is we have, like in Korea, we do have three parts of the government, right? Like a Congress and Judicial Committee and the government. So the Congress make a rule and the government use the rule to rule the people, and the Judicial Committee check that whether government exercise exactly congressmen intended. But when what I said, the dictator is, he ignore that kind of things, violate actually, and execute. He overpower the Congress and Judicial Committee. That's what I said, the dictator. Does it make sense to you? Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense to me, because I see in a situation where the parliament has enacted the law and the executive is to implement the law in the budget that he or she is implementing what the parliament has enacted. I think the problem could not be the executive. The problem could be the parliament was enacted the law that may be unpopular.
Well, this is the case that the ruler must have also something safeguard. You know what I mean? The pastors could easily be a dictator. You know what I mean? Because you don't have a safe switch. So you just go whatever you like to go, and somebody must able to stop it, right?
Yes.
And that's a dictator. So the pastor could be a dictator. That's why we do have a deacons meeting and an elders meeting, whatever. So to examine whether pastor practice his right correctly or abuse it. Make sense? But look, how about the charismatic leaders? They overpowered all these committees. They are dictators, more than a dictator. It's like some of them act like a god. Be careful that. Yeah. So you know, who is your supervisor? For example, Moses, your wife is a pastor, and who is her supervisor? If she do something wrong in the church, who will say, "Oh, pastor, you shouldn't do this way. Please do this way"? Yeah. Um, so this is we have to, and then of course our God is our supervisor, but if you ignore as a supervisor, then what do they do, you know? Mm, so okay, someone say that losing all my right to lay men down is, so okay, praise the Lord. Yeah, so I mean ruled 8 years, right? No. As I mean I don't know that what does it mean, but anyway, mm, uh, yeah. Oh, okay. David Camara, you have a question or a comment for that?
A comment and
Mm,
position.
mm, okay.
But I would think it might not be ever right.
Mm,
Because the passage I read in Proverbs, I'm forgetting, it says that if it is in your power to do something, your
mm,
brother, and you do it, you
mm,
have sinned against God. You are sinning against God.
mm,
Uh, in many cases, Christians, we tend to keep quiet on everything, even when we see that these things are not really going on well. We keep
mm,
quiet and we praise our leaders.
mm,
If they are doing things that are contrary sometimes to even to God's law.
mm,
Uh, for example, the government is enacting laws in support of sin in the country,
mm,
and Christians keep quiet. They don't say anything about it. At the end of the day, you hear Christians complaining that if it wasn't this is so-called 80
mm,
judges in this country or 5 judges, this would
mm,
not have happened. I've heard that so many times with the American Christians
mm,
concerning homosexuality and abortion. But if they rose up
mm,
when this law was coming before it became a law, and they rose up
mm,
really to fight against that law, it wouldn't have passed.
mm,
So at times we tend to keep quiet because
mm,
we say, we are supposed to obey those in authority. But
mm,
what if those in authority are actually doing things contrary to
mm,
God's law? We
mm,
keep quiet. I
mm,
don't think we should keep quiet. Yes, we can pray and pray.
mm,
Prayer can get us far, and
mm,
God can answer prayers. But at
mm,
times, I think we need to take action,
mm,
especially where
mm.
things are not going on in a way of God. We are
Yeah.
we have a role to play as Christians to
Mm-hmm.
put things in order. So, because if actually God has put a leader to do good to people, to us, not to himself,
Mm-hmm.
but this leader turns into doing it good to himself
Mm-hmm.
and also disobeying God's law,
Mm-hmm.
what do we do? I think
Yeah.
as Christians, there is something we need to do. You've talked of coup d'etats.
Mm,
However much we may not of ourselves in coup d'etats, because they have also problems. I've seen them in several African countries.
mm,
They are
mm,
overthrown. Those
mm,
who overthrow the governments become
mm,
worse than the government have overthrown. That they do it in their selfish interest. But I mean, we
mm,
need to come in church and then we talk to these leaders that
mm,
here you are going wrong. This is not the way God wants you to lead these
mm,
people. You remember
mm,
what happened to Solomon's son?
mm,
The elders came and tried to put him right and ask for favors, but he did not listen to them. He rather went to his peers and then they
mm.
allied him. And
Yeah.
what came out of that was the
Mm,
division of the kingdom,
mm,
the fall of the kingdom, the United Kingdom. So I think there's a time where Christians need to rise and say, this is wrong.
mm.
You are taking the wrong path. Dear
Okay.
our leader, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
Thank you. Yeah. Mm. Moses, you have a question? Just I hope that it's short. Yeah.
Yeah, it's short. I just want to thank my brother for that. But I want to maybe add on something he said. We don't just need to go and talk with these people and we stop there. That's why strongly I believe we need to participate. Because if the problem is the law made in the states is a problem, why do we go there and make a right law if there is anywhere? Because these are human beings who go there, and we know how they go there. We don't just need to stop in prayer or advice, but we can participate and we go and speak what we think is right, so that we can make a good laws for our country, so that we don't wake up like America. You're waking up when the wrong people have dominated almost everywhere.
Okay, yeah. All right, good, thank you. Joseph, you have a question or comment for that?
It's a comment, Professor. In addition to my colleagues, I want to say this, Professor, that the issue of participation and involvement is must be made an issue as far as Christians are concerned. We spend a lot of time in churches and doing community charitable work, but we do not want to participate in the arms of government. If members of parliament are all elected by the people, then we as Christians, we need to participate in the election, so that if we are elected, we could make a difference on the parliamentary floor. For example, if we are in the church praying and we're not participating in the enactment of laws, certainly some of those anomalies will be involved. Take an example. A couple of years ago, the government, especially the ethics and integrity under the government, the state house, had instituted a team to come up with a religious and faith-based policy. And the policy in its sense was actually good. It was going to be a good policy to ensure that we deter the false prophetism in this country. But incidentally, a section of pastors themselves actually appealed to the president. By the time it was supposed to be introduced to the parliamentary floor, the president was coerced by a section of pastors, and this policy was brought to nothing. So until we also participate and appreciate as Christians of what is being happening, we cannot continuously be on the pointing side. We point a finger at the government, we point a finger at the parliament, but we are not there. So our views must be appreciated. And if something is for the good of us and we do not internalize it, then we are bound to making mistakes and therefore be led by people who don't understand what we should understand.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I'm so glad that there's some different opinions also. Yeah, yeah. Let's move on. Another topic. How about if the government cannot save the people, or government cannot support protect your not only your life but your properties? What would you do? You still pay the tax because government collect the tax to protect your life and your family and then your property and your business. But if the government does not function for that, what would you do? Do you want to support the government, or you want to turn over the government, or wait until God punish the government? How do you think? Yeah, why do we need a government if the government does not support protect your property, your family, your life? Yeah. So that's another issue. I don't have again. I do not have a much time, and then also there is no such yes or no. That's case by case, and then also involve the culture also. But how about the biblical stand? See that the Samuel, he rejected openly. He rejected the Saul openly, and then even he ordained secretly to David, because he knows that the king's power. Is this right? And is this really is the Bible teaches wrong way? Should we follow like a Samuel? That's still have a question. Yeah. Does anybody wanna Want to discuss about it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Please. Okay, go ahead. Who is it? Moses. Yeah. You wanna
Yes.
react?
Yeah.
To
I
that?
want to react on that. In case the government has failed its obligations and responsibility toward the people, do we really need to pause it? Why not? Why not? If the government has failed what's supposed to be done, I don't agree that we can hold hands and watch the government. We need to bring the government to order, because these people we are talking of, the government, they are not angels, they are human beings.
Yeah.
We need to bring them into the order. So we need to raise, and we use all means. Like one of the means is the democratic means. So we can say now, we are, after 5 years, we are going to the ballot, we are going to votes, whether they whatever, we can change those things in the ballots.
Yeah,
like for example,
I know that Moses. Let me ask you more specific questions. That the
yes.
way, of course, that if government does not function very well, we must do something. We must do something, and should we do like Samuel? He openly objects that what the King Saul did, and he disapproved. But in America and most of the democratic countries, they do change by the vote instead of using physical power or voice, but using vote. So that methodology it should be the well adjusted in the situation, instead of that when you use your physical power to turn over, that's it's a dictate. I mean the coup d'état. That's but we can still turn over the government by vote. So okay, brother Jimmy Okidi, you have a comment for that?
Yeah, just a comment. Well, what we are saying is theoretically okay, but practically it may not be applied. Because these people who are in the government, they dictate the parliament, or they influence the parliament, they bribe the parliament, and also they control the judiciary. So it's difficult to influence the law, to change the law.
Yeah.
And when we come to balloting, yes, we can cast our vote, our ballots rightly, but they usually reach the elections. And they continue in government as long as they want to, especially in African setting, maybe in the US, where there's a lot of transparency.
Yeah.
Transparency. So it's difficult. We can lobby. I see some people do rioting. So they alert the whole world about the news all over the nations. But as Christians, I think we should be involved in prayer, and then also try to give counsel to the government. I think as Christians or as Christian leaders, we have to play our priestly role, or our priestly role to the nation, to intercede for the nation, and also we give counsel to the government. When they take it, it's okay. When they don't take it, we leave the rest to the Lord. Because when we begin to take the laws in our hands, rioting and arrest, with our empty hands, then we may also fall prey.
Yeah.
As many people have been arrested, many leaders have been arrested and persecuted.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Case by case basis, it is difficult to implement, but it's an easier saying.
Yeah. Because government also steal the vote too. Yeah, some dictators, they control the vote also. That's what we experienced when I was in Korea. But Okay, let's jump into like that way. And let me ask a very critical question. Does pastor have a right to talk about the government in the during the worship time? How do you think about that? You know, the pastor preach on Sunday, you know, the government, about government or vote. Yeah. Do we have a right to do that? Okay, Jimmy. Yeah. Okay, brother Jimmy. Yeah. Unmute the phone. You raise your hand. Yeah. Okay. Unmute the phone, brother Jimmy. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Elizabeth, you have a question or comment? Okay. Okay, Jimmy first. Okay, Jimmy. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, not at in the pulpit per se. It's not so good to talk about the government or politics in the church, because in the church people are divided. Some people could be for a particular party, others could be in opposition, others could be in a ruling party and the like. So when we begin talking about politics in the church, I think we will be bringing division in the church. We could use other forums to talk about it at the preaching time. We could use other forums to talk about, ask people to pray, to try to balance our prayer towards the will of God. And if we are not sensitive, we can end up dividing up the church on the basis of politics. I see this do happen. And as pastors, I believe that I should be a bit neutral to the political affiliation.
Okay. Yeah.
I should have decide which government I will vote for, or which policies I should vote for. As for me, I don't vote for a party, but I vote for policies.
But sometimes, yeah, but sometimes that is obviously that you have a dictator, and then do you think that the pastor has a right that to say, oh, we have to pray for our nation and our people, and then let the dictator either change his mind, or if not, then God punish him like that? Can we pray like that way?
Yeah, if something's going wrong, I think it's good to point to the church that something is wrong, something is not going well. It's not in the way of God.
Because, you know, like if we practice what the Samuel did, he openly, publicly criticized Saul. Yeah. So, which means that look like he preached that you know, King Saul's wrong behavior. Yeah, that was. Yeah. Okay. Elizabeth, you have a question?
I just wanted to add on what Jimmy was saying. That in addition to that, if we continue speaking about it in our churches, some of them will even begin to have bias towards the church. Yes, Prophet Samuel mentioned it, but maybe it was during those days. But currently, the situation now is very. The situations have changed, and even though this it exposes the church to the effects of government policies, because sometimes the government may come to fight against that particular church, because we always have spies in church, and they are placed everywhere. So if we continue talking about the government, the bad side of it, I think we should just continue praying for the church. And praying for the leaders to have wisdom and manage the situations in the way that God wants them to, because it's given to them by God. So we should also pray that God gives them wisdom to run the leadership very well, rather than saying it out publicly.
Yeah. All right. Okay, Pastor Han, you have a question?
Yeah, well, I just have a comment. You know, whether we should talk about it in the pulpit, about, you know,
politics,
about government, the politics. I do agree that it will cause division in you know, for example, the recent one here in America, Trump versus Biden, right? Trump versus Biden. You know, Trump is you know, accused of being racist. I don't know if you remember that. And but then at the same time, the other party support abortion. So I think we you know, we all know that each one of us, we need to vote one way or the other. So at least what we can do, I mean, we should not be taking like okay, you should vote Trump or we should vote Biden. But at the very least, we can tell them what we know. I mean, very clear that the Democrats support abortion. We can tell them that.
Yeah.
You know, that one's very clear. Whether Trump is racist or not, you know, that's probably subject to opinion, right? But there are things that are 100% true that we can point out to. I think that part is okay, but you might lose people. To be honest with you.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's
okay. Thank you, Brother Ben. You have a comment?
Yes, I think the Bible mentions about the we shouldn't fail to mention about it, but the wrong campaign when you are on the pulpit, you need to balance. You just need to share the word and because you shared you should be another pastor. You can show your position when you are in the church, but when you move out, you can show where you fall. And if it means campaign and become a political leader, it's okay, but not mention when you are on the pulpit. On the pulpit, you should emphasize preaching the word. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. But yeah, personally, this is my opinion that we should not, pastor should not talking about the politics in public, because you know, and then also should not be involved in the politics. We can pray for the politicians, but are not involved. Why is the politicians, they try to please the people, yeah, and then also they want to be re-elected, so they divide, they search for opposite parties' fault. But Jesus teaches that we have to love everybody, love even your enemies, right? But politics always divide, and then we must please God, not to please the people. So because of that, my personal opinion is pastors should not only talking about the politics, but we should not be involved in the politics. We pray for the politicians and they pray for the government, but are not to involve. Yeah, and one more, the more you don't have to answer this question. And when I went to Rwanda, the Roman Catholic priest shared secretly that he got kind of fear. The president invited him. It was a long time ago. That's why I don't have to worry about it. Probably he's not there anymore. That's why I can tell. The other church leaders, they attend what the president, when the president asked a luncheon meeting. He did not, because he knew that the president will ask to support his policies. But this man was refused, and he felt some fear, and probably he exiled to other country already. I don't know. But how do you think if the president invites you, and then you know something wrong with that, and because I mean you know that the president wants you to join his policies, whatever, that make you to involve in the politics. what would you do? Yeah. So this is a well, according to Apostle Paul, yes, you must go the governor and talk to him or listen to him, and whether it's good or not. And still, because God ordained also this worldly kings also. Yeah. So there could be a debate, but you don't have to answer the question. But I just want you to think about, in that case, what would you do? Yeah. Okay, let's have a 5 minutes break. And then when we come back, we'll discuss about that a few subjects. And then maybe each subject we can talk about 10 minutes, like, abortion, euthanasia, suicide, and then also racial discrimination, and birth control, and these kind of things. We'll discuss about that when I come back. And we cannot discuss details. And so especially those who are in that subject, maybe you can bring more detailed issues. Okay, let's have a 5 minutes break. I'll be back in 5 minutes.